The Big Picture is a report to you from your Army, an Army committed by you, the people of the United States, to stop communist aggression wherever it may strike.
In the background was the growing struggle between two great powers to shape the post-war world. Four horsemen driving civilization to the brink of an abyss.
They thrust across the 38th parallel.
The 38th parallel.
On Sunday, June 25th, Communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. This attack has made it clear beyond all doubt that the international communist movement is willing to use armed invasion to conquer independent nations.
Today, the Big Picture will show our United Nations forces crossing the 38th parallel.
My name is Bill Rector. I was born in 1930 and I am a farmer from Denver, Iowa. Growing up in the Depression, I've seen some hard times. They were cold nights. My grandfather and father were both farmers, so I followed in their footsteps. My grandfather served in World War I. My dad was in World War II, and I followed them again. My name is Bill Rector, and I was a gunner's mate on the USS Los Angeles during the Korean War. The footage you are about to see is my own. It has never been shown on television, filmed on my 8mm camera during the war. This is my story. We left and headed right for Korea. That's what we did. And it wasn't long to out in the bay, and we were in the task force. 135 was our ship. This is a destroyer. Our task force was 77, which they had one battleship. The battleship was the Missouri. Cruisers was the Wasp, which they had all their planes on and whatnot. Then we had 15 destroyers all the way around the task force. They were supposed to watch so that there was no torpedoes or anything that anybody else could send in. Wonsan Harbor was where we went into. That was the difference between North Korea and South Korea. I joined on January 2nd of 1952. I signed up as a gunner's mate, GM3, and I was the head of this gun. It's a 3-inch 50. The projectile is about 3 feet tall, about 4 inches around. You would load the gun from the side. And we had 20 guys that handled the shell, and we had 4 loaders. It was a double gun. One would shoot, and it would go out about maybe 6 or 8 inches, and the other one, and then it would come back, and the other one would shoot. By handling them 3-inch 50 shells, they got really good. We practiced a lot. I'm on my 3-inch 50, looking along the side of the ship. And right next to us there is the 5-inch, but the 8-inch is the farther one. And you can see as they're shooting here. They're shooting over on the guns up on the side of the mountain, and they're trying to knock them out. This is initiation. Anybody that had never crossed the equator got initiated. The ones that had went across it before are the ones that are doing the damage. Here they wanted to drown these guys, just about. And that poor little guy, he was a cook, and they about drowned him. Now these guys here, they made them shine shoes, the captain's shoes. For nobody that had ever done it, I think the guys that had been through it had more fun getting even with the poor guys that's never been on it, you know. We had 1,600 men on our ship, and we took on another 800 or more. We picked them up in Hong Kong, where you cross the equator, and just to go through this ritual, you might say. This was a lieutenant they didn't like, and so these guys are really ganging up on that poor guy and shooting water on him, and they about drowned him and another guy. Here they tar and feathered this guy. They put sorghum all over this guy, and then they took a pillow with feathers in it and put that feathers all over the poor guy. Had him tied up there. He was trying to get the feathers off there. They had a king and queen's court. Now here they are, all lined up here, the court. You had to go through the court to be initiated. as you go through, you couldn't look at the king or the queen. Each one tells you you've got to go through a different thing. They got a paddle gang here, and they have a paddle, and as you go by, they pop you. And here now they've got a tank where they flip them over backwards into the water. Here's the baby. Everybody had to kiss the baby. This is a big chief, and they take and put Limburger cheese. They put everything that they can find, ketchup, mustard, everything around his belly button, and then you got to kiss the baby. There I am right there coming up. That's me. So I gets up there, and what'd they do? Ram my head in there. My friend's name was Reynolds, Richard Reynolds. We would go on Liberty together. We would eat breakfast, dinner, and supper together. We pulled into Hawaii. This is Richard Reynolds and his wife and her girlfriend. There they were on the dock waiting for us. It was so great to have somebody, because we were in the same department. We got to stay together. He slept just a couple bunks away from me. So we were very lucky to be together. We were just like being married, you might say. I didn't know if I was going to make it or not without him, you know, because being away from home, being a farm boy, we didn't know nothing. We would go out to sea for 30 days, and then we would come in for 7 days for R&R. We would have to stay on the ship one day and work. And stand watch, and then the next day we would have liberty. This is where we're pulling into Sasebo. This is up to the top in Japan, and Yokosuka is down more on the bottom end of it. But we're coming into the bay here with our ships. And so we went over there. You'd have to take a little boat over there across the bay. They had areas there where we could go on liberty in Yokosuka, Japan. All the salesmen were standing there, and the Navy guys are going in and doing their shopping, trying to make a bargain with them. A lot of them had their stores, and they weren't very wide streets, but they would have little stores on each side of the walkway there. And it would be like a half a block long, and one store right after the other. Anyhow, there's about 4 or 5 of us guys went on Liberty, and this is in a store, and they had all kinds of goldfish and different kind of fish, and they were selling to people. As you see here, a lot of these guys would carry their stuff and they'd be loaded down. How he could carry all that stuff, I don't know. Right here where we're at now, and we went into Kobe, and we were the first naval ship in Kobe since World War II. And they never wanted us to be over there after dark. And so they told us, if you go over there, make sure you go with 3 or 4 other guys and make sure you're back before it's dark, because if you get over there, you might never come back. So we went over there, of course, you know, and we could pay 50 cents. You could have this taxi just drive you all over town. And so that's what we did a lot of times. We'd just take a little sightseeing tour. Richard Reynolds and I did everything together. After about 2 years, I don't know why, but they transferred him. First, they shot a string across from our ship to their ship. Then they pulled a rope across. And then they got a cable across, and they put a little seat on that cable, and a rope from our ship to their ship, and he got in that little seat, and they pulled him across the water. I don't know what, I bet you that was a thrill for him, but but anyhow, that's how he got from our ship to the other destroyer. See your friend go, wasn't good. We were going to make our usual run down in Wonsan Harbor. We were getting shot at, and if you see them spots in the water, see, they were shooting had some bombs there. We think that where these MiG planes came from was from Russia, and they gave them to the Koreans, North Korea. That's what the story was. I don't know if that was true, but that's what the story was. It was a plane that was taking pictures of our ship. We were after it. It was just gung-ho. We shot it down, and I think we ended up shooting 2 or 3 of them down. If they landed in the water, usually they would have a lifesaver on, and then we could pick them up with our little boats, or our other ships would send theirs out to help. See, they're firing right here at some planes there too. But that's what these MiGs like to do. They'd come down real low and be just off the water. They'd more or less try and run their plane right into a carrier or any ship that they could. But this was our biggest fight that we had, and that was in 1953. Them are MiGs, yep, but they were fast. They'd just come out of nowhere. But that's why we always had to be out there watching. We were shooting with our 3-inch 50s. The 5-inch were shooting at them, but our 3-inch 50 was the ones that would shoot down these planes like we see here now. And those MiGs were so fast, they were hard to hit. And that's the same way with our jets that were after them. It was kind of a scary day because you never knew when one was going to maybe fly right into your mount. This was more action than I'd seen. The next one hit right underneath our turret, and that shook us up. And the next one hit up on the stack, and all the shrapnel came down, and I had 20 loaders, and they got hit. It was nerve-wracking, and I was supposed to be watching over my flock, you might say. I had 23 guys. I was more or less just nervous from that. Trying to get them down off our gun without getting hurt worse than they were. But I think right here, our planes knocked a gun out right here, one that was shooting at us. And one of our planes come in there and shot, or maybe we shot and hit the target. When we were in Korea, we were off about a half a mile, and our helicopter took off from the fantail, saying that there was 2 pilots that got shot down. We're running on the beach, and so we had our glasses and we could see them, and there was about 600 Koreans after them. Our helicopter come in there and had his sling down, picked up the one guy that was hurt, pulled him up into the helicopter, made another swing, come down and got the other one, and the way they come back to the fantail. But in the meantime, we were shooting at these Koreans that were following him. We had every 7th bullet would ignite in the air above them, and it had shrapnel. When they would explode, it would just flatten them. You couldn't believe what it was doing to those people. Them guys were so happy to be on the ship. And they kissed the deck. They were that happy. I'm just very fortunate to be here today, and I guess the Lord was helping me all the way.
Support provided by Carbondale Tourism, located in southern Illinois. Carbondale offers outdoor recreation, local eateries, nightlife, and year-round entertainment. More information can be found at carbondaletourism.org.
Support comes from Knott's Logistics, a full-service supply chain provider with headquarters in Nashville, Illinois and Cartersville, Georgia, dedicated to supporting and employing veterans since 1981. Learn more at knottslogistics.com.